So for this leg of the flight, actually we left Fourways very, very early. It was still dark, and we headed towards Springs Airfield. Little do you know, we would have a delay of about 2 hours because we were facing two problems. The first problem was a magneto, and I'm going to explain shortly what a magneto is. The second problem was that the battery was drained in the aircraft. The battery had the battery had no charge at all, had no power at all. Whoever had flown it last had not done their shutdown procedures properly, and it led to the battery being drained. And so technicians had to look into that before we could be cleared for takeoff. So what's this magneto that we're talking about? You know that the way you start a car engine is different from the way that an aircraft engine starts. In the aircraft engine, you have what is called a magneto. In fact, there are two magnetos, the left magneto and the right magneto. So what these are is that there's a rotating magnet inside the magneto. As the magnet rotates, there is a coil next to it, a coil of certain wires coiled around a particular iron bar, and as the magnet rotates, it induces current that flows to the cylinder of the engine where the spark plug is connected, and there it will deliver a spark at the right time. Timing is critical when it comes to these things. It will deliver a spark at the right time in order to ignite the fuel air mixture that's inside the cylinder, because you know that your aircraft will take air and mix it with fuel as metered by your settings within the cockpit, and that mixture will then be given the spark, will then be exposed to the spark coming from the spark plugs, which the spark plug takes from the magnetos, and the spark, as the spark flashes, the mixture will burn, compress, and expand, and create this revolution within the engine, create energy, and that will force the engine to propel the aircraft forward. So if the magnetos are not functioning, then you are not able to send the current to the spark plug. The spark plug is unable to produce a spark, and without the spark, the fuel air mixture cannot be burned. So without that burning of the fuel air mixture in the cylinder, the engine cannot push forward. The engine has no power. The engine is as good as dead at that moment. So that's how magnetos work. You have a right magneto and a left magneto. That's why before we take off, we do what is called a mag check. In other words, there are certain parameters that are set by the manufacturer to say if you idle this aircraft, it should idle at this particular RPM, revolutions per minute. So if it's placed on both magnetos, if you change it from both magnetos to the right magneto, you should experience a drop in the RPM. The manufacturer will give you a particular threshold and say maybe 50 or 100 RPM. That's the parameters within which the magneto must drop. Anything above that is a cause for concern. So you move it from both to right magneto and monitor your instruments and see whether there is a drop, and if the drop is within the acceptable parameters, and then you go back to both. Then you go back, then you move on from both to the left magneto this time around, and you also monitor your instruments and see if there's a drop in the RPM. And if that drop is within the parameters, the drop will be there because you've now moved from firing, from sending the current from both magnetos to sending it from just one magneto, either the right or the left. Hence, there will be a drop in the RPM. But that drop must be within the acceptable parameters given by the manufacturer of the aircraft. If it is outside that particular bracket, then you need to have that thing checked. You need to ground yourself and have the aircraft checked by a technician. What could cause a magneto to behave that way? We know that we say the spark plug inside the cylinder of the engine produces a spark which assists in the burning of the fuel air mixture in order to produce energy for the engine to propel the aircraft forward. If the magneto drops, it means there is a problem in the cylinder. There could be that the spark plugs are fouled, and fouling of the spark plugs occur where there are large carbon deposits on the spark plug, preventing the process of sparking from happening as it should. If you are to experience a rough running engine in that context, where you suspect the fouling of the plugs, then what you must do is you must lean your fuel air mixture. In other words, come back on the fuel air mixture to ensure that it is lean. And once you've leaned it, you must crank up your engine. In other words, increase your RPM. What that will do will assist you to burn off whatever deposits of carbon are there on the spark plugs, preventing your plugs from firing as they should. Right. So, but the takeaway from this is that if your aircraft is giving you problems, if your spark plugs are not firing as they should, if your magnetos are not giving you the RPM they should, if they're not functioning as they should, then you must ground yourself, have a technician check that before you become airborne. If you continue with that particular setup, then you will eventually run into problems. Ours was sorted while we were at Springs Airfield. Battery was sorted out. And then the magnetos are also sorted out. But so we stopped in Bethlehem at this small airfield, and I went around to look for a shop. That tiny little shop was closed, but I asked them to open it up for me, and they did. Thank you for that, Bethlehem. And I got some knickknacks and some sweets and a sandwich for Sipo because he can handle gluten and I can't. So now we're off to Bloemfontein. Here we go. So this morning we were supposed to take off from Springs Airfield for Bloemfontein, but we got delayed because the magnetos were not working properly, and the last person to fly the aircraft did not perform their shutdown checks properly. They actually left the master switch on. We drained all the battery. So we had two problems in the morning. We had the problem of the magnetos, which were not working properly, and we also had the problem of the battery, which was dead. So the technician had to look at it and fix that before we're airborne. We saw eventually we had a 2-hour delay, but we were able to catch up once we're airborne, and now we're in New Tempe in Bloemfontein. We'll soon be routing back for Springs. Yeah, just had some French fries or potato chips from the cafe here. They don't have anything gluten free, unfortunately, but what can you do? You eat what's available. At least Sipo got himself a burger, which is quite good. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that short video, and if you did, please do click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and to share this amongst your fellow aviators. Look, the more you share, the more we become visible, the more we can make Africa great again. So we really appreciate your support. We really appreciate you cutting this link and pasting it in the social media circles wherever you are. Remember, with every hour the cockpit beckons. Whatever it is that you're doing, keep adding those hours. Until next time, Angela Dube signing out and saying cheers.